a survival horror game to exist on a portable is something of a paradox. The bright and airy spaces that these consoles are normally played in aren't exactly conducive to the dark and foreboding experiences that these types of games offer, but where there is a will, there's a way, and Silent Hill Origins for the PSP is a bold title that tackles most of the factors going against it, blurring the lines between fantasy and reality as much as it does between console and portable. Silent Hill Origins is neither a remake of the first game or a spin-off of the recent Hollywood adaptation, but an entirely new storyline, a prequel, if you will, that attempts to trace the origins of everyone's favorite roadside tourist spot. In this spin on the franchise, players take up the role of Travis Grady, a troubled trucker living his life a quarter mile at a time on the lonesome road. His usual trek up his northeastern route is abruptly cut short when a young girl steps out on the road near Silent Hill, nearly causing Travis to crash his rig. Worried for her safety, Travis gets out of his truck to investigate, but as we all know, this sort of thing doesn't end well for would-be heroes in this neck of the woods. The game lacks a lot of the story and character build-up present in other installments. Travis is almost dispensable in his significance to the overarching scheme of the series. One of the endings provides some insight that segues directly into the first game, but aside from a brief glimmer of information, no major revelations are made about the grander scheme of things. Travis's pursuit for answers will take him across 4 major locales in Silent Hill. It's within each of these labyrinth-like structures that players will have to put their stomachs and wits to the test by cracking cryptic puzzles and braving dark, dank corridors filled to the brim with the series' trademark set of abominations. Within these areas, anything and everything you pick up is important in some way, from clue-riddled pieces of paper to toasters that can be brandished as weapons. Like most survival horror titles, using items wisely to further your progress is the name of the game here, and in this regard, Origins doesn't stray far from the example set by its seniors. Interacting with mirrors causes Travis to jump between the 2 alternate realities of Silent Hill, a mechanic used to solve certain puzzles and wiggle past some obstructions. The situations that call for it are nicely worked into the game, but at times you can't help but feel that it exists as an artificial means of lengthening the game. Whether it boils down to wandering in the dark or solving a puzzle or two along the way, Origins does well to maintain the Silent Hill formula. There's just the right balance between low-impact brain-benders and heart-pounding monster standoffs to keep you on your toes at all times. But there simply isn't enough to go around. With only 4 full areas to explore, this excursion into Silent Hill is arguably the shortest in the series yet. To counteract this, the game offers multiple endings and unlockable achievements known as accolades, represented as bonus costumes in-game. To put things into perspective, one of the accolades happens to be beating the game in less than 2 hours. This iteration of the Silent Hill franchise may be called Origins, but the controls have thankfully taken on the 3D movement scheme used in recent games, rather than the clunky tank controls of old. Here, moving Travis around is done with the analog stick, while a quick item swap is performed with the D-pad. When it comes to throwing down with the freaks, Travis is armed with a good number of options. Though blocking from Silent Hill 3 is not an option here, players can arm and toss heavy items, swing various melee weapons, wind up for a strong attack, and lock horns in a Resident Evil 4-style grapple. And of course, there's always guns. The camera, as it turns out, is one of the toughest foes in the game. Out in the open, the game opts for an over-the-shoulder vantage point, but in constrained spaces, the game shifts towards fixed camera angles. This is often permissible since the game often establishes some unnerving camera angles, but the few instances where you can manipulate the camera result in blindsided attacks from enemies. Unpredictable as the camera can be, the series' reliable control scheme remains intact, and there's hardly a moment where you'll wish for a console controller. Every aesthetic quality that has defined the series remains in top condition here. From textures of caked blood on the walls to the eerie rasp of static, the game is Silent Hill in every sense of the word, PSP be damned. Akira Yamaoka, the long-running composer for the series, also lends his effort to the project, with a selection of grisly tunes and industrial clanks to round out the game's authentic presentation. It's easily one of the best-looking PSP games, with the only terror in presentation being the game's horrific voice acting.
I've always hated you! You and your devil son!
Silent Hill Origins is a game that smartly packs all of the series' best qualities into a bite-sized, portable portion. With its incredibly short length, we only recommend it for purchase for fans, but while it lasts, it's indisputably the best handheld survival horror game available.